Okay, so today we're working on percent and percent estimation. Okay, so make sure you have this, or if you don't have it printed out, that's perfectly fine. But you need to start taking notes. So you need to start writing this down in your notebook so you can have it, so you can look back and use it on quizzes. Okay, use it on study guides. Okay, so a percent is a part to whole ratio. Okay, the part to whole. So if we're thinking about this, and I'm going to go ahead and write it down, but we're going to see it later. So part to whole, and it says is a ratio. So there's other ways to write a ratio, right? So we can write it part to whole, okay, or we can say part over the whole. Okay, so just kind of keep this one right here in mind, all right, because you're going to see this later on. Where the whole is always, well, where it's always 100, okay, because 100%, we're basically trying to break down something into 100s, okay, so it's always going to be out of 100. Okay, so we're going to complete the chart below with the missing information. All right, so this is broke down into 100. So let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, there's 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so 10 times 10. Well, there's 100 little boxes. Okay, so now right here it says percent over the whole, right? Well, what did I say? Part over whole. So percent and part, okay, over the whole. All right. So let's look at the part over the whole in this case. Okay. So the whole is 100. Okay. Now let's see how many boxes are shaded in. So we have 2 rows, so that should be 20. Okay, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 25. Okay. Now, when we have this, well, that's a fraction, right? So I want to change my fraction to a decimal. All right, so your numerator, 25, divided by 100. Now, remember, I'm going to put it in here. I was working something else out. 25 goes first, divided by 100. 0.25. Okay. Now, if we want to go from decimal to a percent, we just multiply by 100. Okay. So we times this by 100, and that will give us our percent. So anytime we see a decimal, okay. Okay, sorry there. Okay, so anytime we have a decimal, okay, and we're talking about percents, we multiply it by 100, and that's going to give us our percent. So 0.25 is 25%, okay? So let's look at the first one. 25%, and I'll put the percent symbol, okay, is 25 over 100, and that is 0.25, okay? So we kind of see a pattern here, okay? So on our assignment, we will finish these, and I will number them. That one's 1, this one is 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so I want you to fill in the rest of these, okay, and those will be on your Google assignment, okay. Now, a percent can also be written using a percent bar or percent proportion, okay, so a percent bar or a percent proportion. Now, we'll get into those proportions a little bit later, okay? Okay, now, the percent bar, okay, so it set up a percent bar and percent proportion for each fraction below, okay? So, we got 1/5, all right, so we're into fifths here. Now, we know that the percent is always out of 100, okay? So, on the bottom, this is going to be 100%. Well, if I divide 100 into 5 each time, or divide it by 5, because that's what it tells me, okay? So, I have 20%, and I'm just going to write all these out, okay? And then I'll have 40, 60, and 80%. Okay, so if we're looking at it in fraction form, well, 1/5, well, that's what that is. So right now, this is what we're talking about. Okay, and then we have 2/5, well, that's going to be 40. Okay, 3/5 is going to be 60%. 4/5 is 80, and 5/5 is 100. Okay, so we have 1/5. Okay, 1/5 is equal to what? If we're talking about percent proportions, which I'm talking about like it is up here. Okay. All right, so we're going to take 20 over 100. Okay. So 1/5 is equal to 20 over 100. Okay. Now, I might accidentally cut some of that off when I was talking. I didn't have the paper scooted up far enough. But it's out of 100%, okay, and it's broken up into 5. All right, so the first one, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100%. Okay. The fractions that would go along with that, 1/5, 2/5. That one's kind of hard to see. 3/5, 4/5 is 80%, 5/5 is 100%. Okay, and we set up our fraction. Okay, and then what is that equal to in our percent proportion? Well, our percent proportion is like what we did up here, the percent over the whole. Okay, so in this case, 20. All right, because that's 1/5. That's the first one out of 5. All right, this one right here will be the next one. So this is problem number 5. Okay. Okay, we're on the next page now. Okay, percent bars can be used to, well, we can estimate using them. Okay, the percentage. All right, so set up a percent bar and then describe what you notice. All right, so what is 50% of 50? Okay, so we're going to do the percents on the bottom. So we know this is 50%. We know out of 50, right? Well, 50%, that shows me, this will be 0, this will be 0. 50% shows me, well, it's halfway. So half of 50, okay? So 50% is half of the percent bar. And therefore, half of the whole. All right, and so we're talking about half of 50 is 25. Okay. We'll do one more. Okay, so what is 25% of 50? All right, so we're going to do it the same way. We're going to set up our percent bar. All right, there's 100%. All right, now it says 25, so these are broken up into fours. Okay, so this is 25%. This is 50. This is, if I can write 50. 50%. This is 75%. Okay, 25% of 50. So again, 50. All right, we've already determined that half of 50 is 25. Okay. So you divide this into fourths. All right, because 25% is equal to 1/4. Okay. And when we do that, we would get, or we can do it as a whole or do it as a part. So we'll do the whole first. So we could take 50 and divide it by 4. Okay. And that's going to give us 12.5. All right. Now, 50 divided by 4 may be a little bit harder to do in your head, and that's okay. But we can split it. All right. So half of 50, I know, is 25. Okay. And that way, half of 25 is probably a little bit easier to actually do in your head than a quarter, 25% of 50. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. All right, so what is 10% of 50? All right, so it says set up a percent bar, then describe what you notice. So it's already got it kind of started here, but if we went ahead and tried to split it up as evenly as possible. How many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that should give us 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep. All right, so again, 100% is our total and 50 on the top. Okay, this is our 50, and it's 100%. Okay. Now, 10% is 1/10 of 100%. Okay. You can move the decimal in both numbers to find 10%. Okay. So what it's talking about, here's 10%, right? All right, so 10% of 50, well, if it's 1/10, you just take 50 times 1/10, then that'll give you 5. Okay? So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, and there's your 50. Okay? All right, moving on to 6 and 7. It says use the percent bars to estimate the solutions below. All right, what is 20% of 80? So our 100% is on the bottom, 80 is on the top. Okay, I was fixing to write 80%. Okay, now we know that it's going to be 20%. So either, and it looks like it is broken up right now into 10. So 1, 2, 3. All right, I know they're not evenly spaced, but okay. So if I'm saying this is 20%, okay, so we can set it up as a proportion and try to estimate it, okay? But just like we did with this one, all right, we said 10%, okay, 10%, we're just moving the decimal place. So we're just basically dividing that by 10, right? So is 8. So if 10% of 80 is 8, then 20%, well, I'm just going to do what? I'm doubling 10%, so I double my 8 to 16. So what is 20% of 80? Well, 20% of 80 is 16. All right. All right, what is 75% of 200? All right, so 200 on the top, 100 down here. Okay. All right, so it's not splitting this one, but we will just it looks a little funny if it's not. So this first one right here is going to be what? Well, that splits it in half, so that's 50, which means this one is 75. Okay. Now, 50% of 200 is what? What's half of 200? 100, right? So 75% is where? In between these two. All right, so if we're just guessing, if 75% is in the middle of 100 and 200, well, what's in the middle of those? 150. Okay, so that's how we can use percent bars to estimate. Okay, now flipping over to the next one, here's what your assignment is going to be. All right, you have, I believe, 5 questions. Okay, in the first part of the video. All right, so this will be 6, this one will be 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, you will have questions that come out of here. Okay, I might ask you, what is the decimal of 2/5? Okay, I might ask you what percent would represent 1/8. All right, so I'm going to do just a couple examples here. Okay, so 1/5. Okay, we just divide 1 divided by 5. All right, in our decimal would be 0.2. Now, when we're talking about percents, though, that's not 2%. It's talking about, all right, it would be a 20. All right, you need 2 places to the right of the decimal. So that percent would be 20%. Okay, 2% is 0.02. All right, that's 2%. Okay. All right, and I'll do one more. Let's see. Well, let's just do 3/4. All right, so 3 divided by 4 is 0.75. All right, remember, to go from our decimal to our percent, we just times by 100, and that gives us our percent. All right, so in this case, I might ask you, what percent represents this fraction, 1/5? Well, you would have to divide these two, okay, and then multiply this by 100 to get your percent. All right, if you see this, okay, if you see 0.2 and you know automatically that's 20%, then that's all you need to do. Say 1 divided by 5 is 0.2. Well, 0.2 is 20%. Okay, so there will be some questions. There won't be a whole lot, maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 that come out of here. All right, but 1 through 10 is the ones I previously numbered, and these. Okay, and you'll have some out of here. All right. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me or send me a private comment, and get started on this assignment for today. Thank you.